Three. Hello and welcome to another edition of the C Squared Podcast. This is your host Curtis with my co-host Aaliyah, and we are here today to discuss a very important subject, which is basically, it does sound like a college degree, but it's not. This is kind of different what we're talking about. So we're going to call it how to communicate with the media or media communications, but it's not probably what you're thinking. So Aaliyah, you want to start us off and kind of explain the context and we can get rolling
Sure.
here?
Yeah, so I've been seeing, this is a topic that constantly gets discussed in the music marketing world. And it's just always good to revisit the principles of how you're communicating with media outlets from, what kind of information they want to know, how they want to be communicated with, etc., to make sure you leave the best impression you can. So we're just going to dive a little bit into that today. And starting with the emails and how those should be formatted, and also why email to begin with, right?
This is a very important topic.
Curtis, why do we want to try to email people instead of contacting them on social media, for example?
Well, there's a couple of reasons why. For some journalists, you will automatically be considered to be maybe not a spammer, but an annoying person if you pop up on their social media. For some, not all. Some journalists do like it. If they say they like it to DM me or something like that, that's a totally different story and not what we're talking about, because there is the odd person that does prefer it. But in general, unless you know the person very well, and even if you do, it's best to put any business communication, and your band is a business, on email. And there's a couple of reasons for that. Number one is the fact that social media messages can get missed or forgotten about if the person looks at it when they're in a hurry. An email message is less likely to have that happen, and it also looks more professional. There's my take.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think, a lot of times if you only have the contact, you only know how to contact them on social media, you can send them a message and ask for their email.
Yeah.
And say, I guess you would say, can I send you a press release for my band's upcoming release?
You could. I would do that as a last resort, though, most of the time.
Just say, can I have your email?
Yeah, DM in general, just for that. What I would do, hopefully I'm not going too off topic here, and just shut me up
No, go ahead.
if I do. What I would suggest, if you're trying to contact a specific journalist, always look for the email. There's 99.9% of the time you can find it somewhere. Google search is really good. You can use Twitter. You can even look on the person's Facebook a lot of times, and a lot of times they'll say, email me at blah, blah address. Or you might know someone that has been featured at that site, and you could ask that person for that person's email. So that would be an absolute last resort, in my opinion.
Sneaky, as sneaky as possible about getting the person's email address.
Yeah. Well, not sneaky, but just try not to invade personal space, I guess is what I'm trying to say, is probably the best way of putting it. Yeah.
Try not to bother people if you can find it out another way.
Yeah.
So once you've got the email, how do you format it? What's your subject line? Things like that. You really want to, first of all, timing. Here I go again. I'm going to go into the emails, I promise, but one more thing before we go into it. The timing of your email is really important. So you don't want to be emailing somebody asking for a premiere next week or asking for a feature tomorrow, whatever. You need to make sure you give them enough lead time. And we were talking about this just, I think, last week or 2 weeks ago, when we were talking in general about the the accidental PR masterclass that we did, right?
Yeah.
How much time do people generally need for a press release to be emailed to them?
Again, it depends. So just as a disclaimer, there's no exact science to this. In some cases, I would say the earlier the better. And in other cases, I would say not tell. It depends. It's so hard to fucking say. For example, if Shields of Wings, sorry, Aaliyah, I can't talk today. If Shield of Wings had a song coming out this Friday, Press release should go out on the Friday.
Right.
Okay, but if Shield of Wings has an album announcement coming, press release would probably go out 2 to 3 months in advance. So it depends. If Shield of Wings had a video coming out, should probably go out that day, unless you find out, for example, like 10 other bands are releasing that same day and you're competing with all of them, in which case you're stupid to drop the video, I might add, but you might want to wait.
Right. So here we get the difference between general media communications and press releases. Press releases are when you send your news out to everyone, and it's for immediate release. And you also need to make sure you mention that it's for immediate release, but we'll get into that later. So that's when you're sending it out to everyone. When you're contacting publications and you're trying to get features or trying to get a review, you have to give a lot more lead time
Yes.
than just a news feature.
Yes. Yes. Do you want me to explain that?
Yeah, go ahead. Go
Okay.
into.
I wasn't sure if you were going to do it, if you wanted me to. Okay, so reviews you generally want to have, again, 1 to 3 months ahead of time, depending upon the size of the publication. But again, there's no exact science to this. I have seen people release an album and still manage to get some reviews by sending the email out after release. It's so fucking rare, but it happens sometimes. But as a general rule of thumb, you want it to be 2 to 3 months ahead of time for something like a feature. A news item, completely different story. 100 complete different story. Because news items are things that are happening right now. So we'll go back to Shield of Wings. If Shield of Wings has a video that they want to announce, they wouldn't wait till next week to send out the press release about the video being released. They would just do it the same day. Unless, again, there's some reason for waiting a few days, like Metallica dropped, you found out an hour before the press release, and so did Nightwish in the same day. In that case, might be a dumb idea. You might want to wait a few days. But as a general rule, news items are right away. So you can follow up, ask people to publish it right away. Most people just cut and paste it. Yes, I know you hate the fact that they're not going to write an original thing about your single, but that's the way it goes. Did I answer the question, or did I just ramble?
Yeah, no, you answered it, I think.
Good.
So again, just to clarify, what is the difference between something you would contact ahead of time for and what would qualify as just a news item?
Okay, now again, you could also ask for the news item to post ahead of time if you want, but it depends. It depends. So what would qualify as the difference between a news item and a feature? Is that the question, or am I misunderstanding it?
Yeah, so when we're talking about a press release,
Yes.
and the type of stuff that you send out for immediate coverage,
Yeah.
what are those types of things that
Okay.
qualify to be in a press release or as a news item?
I would say for press releases, there are various different things you can do. You could do an album announcement if you want to get the word out that your album's coming out. Tour announcement would be another thing. Another thing could be a video announcement, a single announcement. I'm forgetting something, I'm sure, but those are the main ones right there. So
Yeah.
anything that's like immediate that you want to get out, and like Aaliyah said, you always put it for immediate release on it, because that means you could talk about it now for the media. And yeah, it's anything you want to have known about this minute, if that makes sense.
Anything that you want to have known about this minute that publications are going to care about. You don't get to do this for like merch drops or
Some people have tried it.
shows.
Some people have tried that.
or-
They've tried that, and it doesn't always. It has worked for some bands, but it almost never does. I just want to
Unless
point that
it's
out.
yeah, and so unless it's some kind of very unique, noteworthy, newsworthy piece of merch.
Yeah.
Probably not that.
No, not at all. And then another thing too that I just thought of that you could do that for is like a local show announcement or something like that. But you wouldn't want to blast it everywhere. You're on mute.
Yeah, I mentioned that under your talking, so I wonder if you subconsciously absorbed that and repeated it for me.
I must have. I don't know, but anyways.
But yeah, not a local show either.
Yeah.
So yeah, so when we send out a press release for coverage, then
Yep.
let's go into that. I know for Shield of Wings, a lot of times for the press releases, I would just use the general album text that I wrote.
Yeah.
And then above that, I would put in a sentence, just a sentence like, Shield of Rings release first single from new album.
Yeah.
Whatever. Or
so
with music video, first music video from album.
yeah,
So how in depth do the press releases need to be?
again, it depends. So what we do as a general rule, but again, someone else might tell you to do something different. I want to point out that nobody at C Squared, at least to my knowledge, has a degree in PR. If anybody does, they have not told me this. None of us have gone to formal schools or anything on this. We do have three people that have worked in journalism. I have done journalism in the past. I don't anymore. Corey obviously does, and so does Holly. And I think Effie did at one point too, if I'm not mistaken. And I don't think you have, unless have you?
Worked in journalism?
Yeah, like doing reviews or anything like that.
Nah.
I didn't think so.
Just
okay.
Live journal.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but I mean, you haven't written for like a publication, is what I mean. So we got out of these people here, most of us have been involved in it. But I also want to point out that Leah has done extensive pitching to media since she's been here, so she's familiar with it. So just using that as a disclaimer. But what we like to do as a general rule on a press release is you always want to include a photo of the band. 100% of the time, make sure you have a photo, because if you do not have a photo and just have an album cover there, what I've noticed, and Corey has noticed, is that if you do not have a face on the press release, 99.9% of the time, it is going to get less opens and less pickups if you do that. Why is that? I guess people just like faces. I don't know. You could have the best album art in the world, and if you just include that and no picture of the band, it's not going to do very well most of the time. Were you going to say something? Oh, I thought you were about to ask something. So, excuse me. So you want to always have a picture, and then you want to say, obviously, for immediate release, like we said, and you want to have a headline that basically says what it is. So like we'll say Shield of Wings releases new video, I eat pancakes, right? So you want to have the title, everything there, or Shield of Wings releases new albums, The Summoning of the Dragon, or whatever you want to call it, right? You don't have to put, I'm just making shit up as I go along. So you want to have that in the headline as the very first thing. And the reason why we do that is that way people can look at a glance what we're talking about. Like if I just put Shield of Wings as being the title, people aren't going to read it. That's just the way it's going to go. I mean, I guess you could maybe do that with Metallica. Like you could probably just put Metallica and people would read it, but I don't know. I mean, I don't. Okay, so then after that, you just want to have something short, and you want to say basically who the band is, what style they are, and exactly what you are announcing. So you could say symphonic metal band Shield of Wings is releasing their new album Summoning the Dragon on March 21st, 2023.
You're messing with our brand. We know nothing about dragons with us, man.
I know. I don't know why I'm thinking about dragons all of a sudden. Okay. I could have said something like pancakes or something a pancake.
Pancakes. That's more on brand for us.
Okay, well, we'll talk about, okay, my next Shield of Wings thing will be pancakes. So Shield of Wings releases a new song, I Love Pancakes. Or have released their new song, I Love Pancakes, on all streaming platforms, or a video of it or something like that. So that's like basically your first thing right there. Any questions before I move on to the next part?
Nope, that's perfectly clear.
Cool. So you're saying who you are, who they are, what genre they are. Sometimes we miss this. I forget sometimes, I'll confess. What it is that's happening. So it could be a tour date, release, whatever. When it released, if it's coming up, or is releasing rather, when the shows are coming up or whatever. And that's basically it for your first line.
Write this down, people. This is basically a guide to how to write your own press release.
But again, this is how we do it. Another person might tell you something different who is trained in PR. I'm just qualifying that right here. That
write it in pencil.
Write it in pencil, because you might have a different way of doing it that you want to do it. And I'm not going to go over the C Squared style guides or anything like that, because I don't think that's relevant. But then after you have that little line that Shield of Wings has released their new song, I Love Pancakes, on all streaming platforms, you could say, you could even describe it a bit further if you want to, like it's from their upcoming album, How to Mix Pancakes with Fairies, that releases on March 25th, 2023. And then, the album has, I don't know, 12 tracks, all about, and it's a concept album about Aaliyah and James making pancakes at home. I don't know. You could do this. This is just a little bit of info you could do there.
Right. So you basically you can do a little paragraph that creatively explains what the songs are on, what the experience of the album will be like. So that
You
can be
can.
either the topic of the album, it can be the musical style of the album, it can be the musical influences of the band.
Yeah.
You know, anything that you want to give that picture of what the album will be.
Yeah.
To media outlets.
Yeah.
If we're talking about an album press
Yeah.
release.
You could even do it with a song, but I mean, or you could just do the simplistic, which I will many times do just to save time. Shield of Wings has released their new song, I Love Pancakes, on all streaming platforms. The song is from their recent released album or upcoming album, How to Make Pancakes with Fairies, that is out on March 21st, 2023. Listen here. You could just do that too. Depends on how creative you want to get, if you want to or not. Because a lot of times a band doesn't always have anything that interesting to add to it about it being a concept album about making pancakes at home or something like that. So all you want to do is you want to give the information of who you are, what style you are, what you released, or what you're doing. That's basically it, and a link to it.
And a link to it. Button's nice. It gets
Yeah.
people to click.
Yeah.
If you have that sort of functionality.
Yep.
But if you don't, that's okay.
Yeah.
What about for fans of section? Do you think that's good to include?
We don't usually on a press release. We probably should, but we don't. It depends. I mean, some people really like it, some people don't give a shit. And I know it's hard to say because I've seen for fans of that are pretty fucking bad. Like, you know, for fans of, I don't know, X death metal band, and it's the old school death metal band, and it's a deathcore band.
Yeah. Yeah. See, if you're gonna do it, you want to make sure that it's accurate.
Yeah. For fans of Black Dahlia Murder, and it's like some thrash band from Argentina or something, like that didn't really make any sense to me. So I don't know. It's hard to say. Some people like it. I'm kind of 50-50 on it. Do you want me to continue, or did you have something to add before I did?
Just one note about the for fans of that can help is, instead of thinking for yourself what your music sounds like, you can ask like 10 of your friends who are knowledgeable about metal music or the genre that you're playing, and ask them to listen to some demos of what you are making, and ask them what bands it reminds them of.
Yeah.
And kind of see if there are any common denominators amongst your friends. And then those common denominators can be the ones that you might list if you agree that they're accurate.
Exactly. And just because you're a symphonic metal band does not mean you sound like Nightwish. And just because you're a thrash band does not mean you sound like Megadeth, just as an aside. So do you want me to go to the next part? Okay.
Sure.
As I lose my voice here weirdly. So next part you want to do, what we normally do is we add in the album cover or single cover, whatever it is. And then after that, we do a more extensive bio. Whatever the band's bio is, we have that there so that when the publication has the information there. And then we add in the track list, and boom, you're done.
Bio, track list, lineup? That's part of bio.
Yeah, usually, yeah, you would. And then also, you also want to include the social links, obviously. I forgot to mention that too. But we don't usually add in the credits other than who the band members are as a general rule.
Yeah, unless it's somebody like super noteworthy, I would guess.
Again, it depends. We've done it, but as a general rule, we don't. It's, again, there isn't any specific rules to everything. It's just a general guideline, at least that we do.
Yeah, one thing to keep in mind is what we did say earlier, is that a lot of publications will directly copy and paste what you send them.
Exactly.
So it is your job to proofread everything and make sure you've included everything you want them to say. Now,
that being said, just as a minor aside, if you do have a typo and you don't catch it, it isn't the end of the world, and it isn't a catastrophe. We've sent out press releases with typos. Major sites have made typos. It happens. Don't flip out. You know, that one person's name was misspelled or you put the wrong word in it. So that's just an aside.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that's pretty thorough of overview of how to put one together.
Yeah.
Now maybe we can go a little bit, just briefly at the end here, we can go a little bit into like general principles. We did talk already about like timing, but what about as far as like when you can expect to hear back? Do you hear back from people about press releases?
Almost never. Generally you have to look on your own and you have to do follow-up. It's like we've been around for a while. I mean, I have. I mean, C Squared's been around for what, a year and a half or something like that. And I would say you actually hear back maybe like 1% of the time, if that. Usually you just have to go chase up the links yourself. Google is easy to use. You can just find out what's been put out for the last 24 hours. It's usually really easy to find out. Is it a pain in the ass? Yeah, but but do people generally let you know? No, they don't let you know. You just kind of got to figure it out and go check. I mean, sometimes people will, but I don't know why, but it just doesn't happen.
Right. So don't get discouraged if you're not getting emails back from people, basically.
Yeah.
They don't have the time to email everybody whose press release they post.
Yeah.
So just take a search, do a Google search and see if anybody's posting it. Go ahead, Curtis.
I want to mention something just about what Aaliyah just said, which is the fact that, excuse me, that part of the reason why that is because a lot of journalists get hundreds of emails per week, some per day. As a good example, I'm still subscribed to a number of promo lists at a certain email that I have. And I'm not joking you, I thinned that down, like really, really thinned it down. And I'm still getting added to lists. And I haven't written anything in 5 years. No, probably longer than that. 6, 7 years probably. And I still get added to promo lists. And I went into that email inbox today just out of curiosity to see what was there. And I'm not joking you, in the past week, I got about 300 emails.
Holy cow.
Which is fine.
And then that's thinned down. That's crazy.
That's thinned down. And you know what was awesome? I found some promos of some albums I'm looking forward to hearing in the next little bit. And I can listen to them now because somebody didn't take me off their list.
Sweet deal.
Yeah, exactly. But anyways, I digress.
It's all good.
Yeah.
So I guess, are there any other general principles you think we should go over about?
Yep.
All right.
I do have some, but how much time do we have for me to ramble about this? Because there's a couple things I would like to address.
Let's keep it to 10 minutes.
10 minutes? I can do 10 minutes. I just didn't want to get too rambly here. Okay, so number one is we kind of briefly went over this, but not really. So how you talk to journalists when you are addressing them is very, 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 very important. You have to be clear about what you want. 100% clear. And nobody wants to be buddy-buddied with someone that they don't know at all. I fucking hate it when someone buddy-buddies me. And what I mean by buddy-buddy would be, I'll give you a real live example. And this just happened to me last night. It's a really good example. DM, hey, how are you? What would you do, Aaliyah?
I would ignore it.
Okay. I usually do.
If it's somebody that I don't know,
yeah.
I would ignore it.
If I was a journalist, yes. Unfortunately, because I have to sell PR campaigns to bands sometimes, I do have to sometimes find out whether they're just spamming me or actually trying to buy something from us. So I said back, what's up? And they said, no joke, how is your family? And I was like,
red flags, red flags.
Well,
red
it's not
flags.
just that. Well, this is someone that's obviously read How to Win Friends and Influence People, because it's just the stupidest fucking thing I've heard in my life. Like, I don't know this guy. Like, how's my family? Like, he doesn't even know I have a family, right? So, I mean, it's like, you know, how's your family? I'm like, good. What do you want? Like, basically, what can I do for you? You know, and they're like, yeah, I'm in a band. I'm like, okay, great. Like, what do you like? He keeps like back and forthing like this, and finally, he got to the point. And the point was, he thought that we could play a song of his on our podcast, not realizing that we don't do that shit. But it took me about 10 to 15 minutes of back and forth to establish what this guy wanted. And it wasn't last night, I just realized it was a few days ago.
Big no-no.
Yeah. So you don't want to do that. So if it happens to me, I know it happens to journalists all the time. So what you want to do, it might sound a bit, what's the right word I'm looking for? It might seem too rushed and to the point, but
yeah,
people
too forward.
Forward, yeah, that's the word I'm looking for. But you want to be specific in what you want. So, like, if I knew Aaliyah was a journalist, and let's say we knew she wrote for example, Metal Sucks, which she doesn't. Just for anybody listening,
I do not write for Metal Sucks. Please don't send me anything.
not right for anywhere. But if Aaliyah, for example, wrote for Metal Sucks, I could say in my email to Aaliyah, hey Aaliyah, my name is Bob. I'm in the band Shield of Frogs, and we have a new concept album out called The Art of Pancakes and How to Make Them.
And how they're like lily pads.
Whatever. So we have this album coming out on March 23rd, 2023. I don't know why I keep saying that. That must be someone's birthday. Is that your birthday?
No,
Okay, why am
very
I
close
thinking?
though.
I knew it was in March. I'm just going, where am I getting this from? So March 23rd, 2023, we're releasing this concept album. And I was wondering if you'd be willing to review it. I have the link for you to listen or download or whatever right here. I have my social media links right here. My bio is attached here, or you can find it here. Put all the information in there. Would you be interested in reviewing it? Thank you very much, Bob. You have all the information. Do not fucking send an email saying I'm in a band called Shield of Frogs and I would like you to review my album. Is it okay if I send it to you? Please, for the love of God, don't fucking do that.
No, don't do that.
Don't
Everything
do
there. Put everything there.
Just put it there right off the bat. Don't ask, just send it. And if they're interested, they will tell you. And sometimes if they're interested, they won't tell you and they'll just do something about it. So this also includes the reason why I'm kind of bringing this up is because like we get every week people inquiring about our PR services saying, would you like to work with us? And I'll be like, I don't fucking know. Or can you send me the album? Or can we send you the album? Yes, you can send me the fucking album. Just send the album. Don't ask. Don't ask. Just fucking send it. Just
This is why they're hiring us for PR, Curtis.
I know, I realize that. It's just it's frustrating because I mean, it was the same thing when I was a journalist. Would you like me to send you my album? I don't know. I don't know anything about you. Just tell me who you are, what your genre is, give me all the information, and any journalist wants that as well. That's just what they want.
And as a side note, when you are sending your album for review, you want to make sure that they have the option to listen, streaming, or download.
Correct.
Because usually they want to stream it
Yep.
and not download it. But if they really like it, they might want to download it, or they might just want the flexibility to download it.
Yep.
So you want to give them both capabilities straight out of the gate. You don't want them to have to ask.
Not for anything. Just give it all over. Do not ask if they would like to have it. Do not ask any other question. Then here it is. The same thing if you have a single that you're trying to get streamed or premiered or whatever, give them all the information. Just say, this is what it is. This is what I have. This is how you hear it. Do not. Oh, and another thing, here's another pet peeve that I know journalists have is if you are sending them the links as a Google Drive or something like that, do not make them have to go and ask you for permission to listen to it later. Just make it so that way anybody can listen to it. I know you're all worried about people leaking the album, but I mean, like if you want a journalist to actually listen, if they have to go and ask you for permission to listen, it's not gonna happen. So just don't fucking do it. But yeah, be clear, be direct, do not be buddy. No one wants to be your friend at this point in time. They just want to know what you want. That is all they want to know. And if you become friends later, that's totally fucking cool. It's just, oh, and king of all this is if it's a female journalist, for the love of God, do not say how attractive they are.
Definitely not.
Do not go there in any way, shape, or form. I know of several people that their bands have been just denied any coverage at certain places because of doing that. They think it's charming, but it's not.
No, sure isn't. Because now, well, we don't need to go into the details of why.
No, we don't have to. But
complicates things and is a big no-no.
Even going as far as like, okay, so like even if you just said like, anyway, I don't want to get into it. But here's the next thing. So next thing with communicating to journalists. It's good if you actually learn what their name is instead of going, hey man in the press release, or hey dude.
Yep.
These are actual errors because like some people get kind of picky about these types of things. Like if you call a woman, hey man, if you go to a woman and say, hey man, in your email, some of them, they might get a not like that at all. I've seen that happen where it's been like, they've been like, what are you doing, right? So it depends. And I mean, like some people just don't want to be addressed that way. So it's best if you can find out their name. If you cannot find out their name, Aaliyah, here's a pop quiz. What do you do if you can't find the person's name? You don't know if they're a man or woman or anything. What would you do?
Why am I emailing them to begin with if I don't?
For a review.
I haven't read any.
You
So
all
I
you
still
got is you
might,
got the
assuming,
blog name. You got the blog name. That's all you got.
and I know their articles.
Yeah, but they everything's titled just by the blog name. There's no journalist name or anything, which happens. What would you do? Let me just ask you that question. This is a pop quiz.
I'll probably just put hello.
Winner, winner.
Is that right?
That's right. Well, I mean, it's safe, right? Because then that way it's like, you know, you don't want to say dear sir, and then you find out it's a woman, dear madam, it's a guy.
And
or
don't say
whatever.
dear sir or madam, because then that sounds like a job application.
Exactly. Which I guess it kind of is, but at the same time, like nobody
Well,
nobody
I know
wants
it's
to-
like the same level of anxiety, right?
Yeah.
Like you're sending your resume for a job application, or sending your music for a review. It's kind of the same kind of anxiety.
Yep.
And it's the same type of email. And like, yeah. So, but even if I was applying for a job, I wouldn't say dear sir or madam, because it's just, I don't know, seems old and stuffy, and like I didn't make an effort to find out who you are. But for some reason, just saying hello or greetings by itself doesn't feel that way.
100%. And then the next thing I wanted to bring up just with the communication is follow up. So it's okay to follow up. It's good to follow up, but do not take an entitled attitude in either your follow up or your initial email, because that's one thing a lot of bands do. And I don't know if they always do it intentionally, but I do know of a particular person that got a very bad reputation, who was in a band. This was a number of years ago, and I'm not going to call anybody out, because they would get upset when the publications wouldn't respond right away, or if they didn't get covered and they got turned down. They would get upset and they'd be like, you know, this publication sucks and we don't want anything to do with them because they won't listen to our music. They won't give underground bands the time of day. Don't do that. Just be polite, you know, and just follow up and just say, did you get a chance to listen to it? I usually like to follow up a maximum of 3 to 4 times, but again, it depends. I've seen it where if you follow up more, it works. But I've also seen it where if you follow up more, you can shoot yourself in the foot. So it depends. Again, do not follow up on social media as a general rule. One thing that's really annoying to journalists is when someone will, many times where a person will send the email and then they'll send a social media DM right afterwards. And I think that's all I got, Aaliyah.
All right. Thanks for wrapping it up, Ramblin' Man.
Ramblin' Man.
So yeah, I think that's a pretty good primer on press releases and media communications. Please let us know if you have any more questions. Maybe we could do a second episode on this topic and go into more detail. If you have any specific questions, you know where to contact us, Curtis, comment anywhere. And also let us know if there are any guests that you would like us to invite onto the podcast and talk to about what topics. And yeah, we can't wait to hear from you guys. And hopefully this episode has helped you in some way. And until next time, make like a bull and throw those horns up.